Will people feel a different energy cost into the new year, quarter one, quarter two, do you think?
I think you'll soon see a stop in the rise of electricity prices. We're going to achieve that, I think, hopefully in the first half of 2026, the stop of the rises. But during the Trump administration, you will see a downward trend before the administration's over.
So energy inflation, according to the CPI, energy 14.7% up. Gasoline, and obviously we talked before the Iran conflict had started, and that's largely gasoline and fuel, but electricity and energy overall.
The president's favorite network was behind one of the most brutal interviews of his second term, one that directly flies in the face of the message that he wants blasted out to voters across the Fox airwaves. That the war's going great, traffic in the Strait is flowing, energy costs, they're coming down, of course they are. But up steps a usual voice of deflection for the Trump administration, host Brett Baier on Fox News, and he appears to have got a different memo. Baier first addressed Trump's claim that America has total control of the Strait, and instead of repeating the White House talking point, he actually showed viewers what's happening on the ground. See, before Trump's Iran war, more than 100 commercial vessels a day were crossing through the Strait of Hormuz. Baier said that on Monday, 8 crossed. The next day, there was 14. His conclusion was, quote, despite the president claiming total control over the Strait, traffic has slowed really to a trickle. A trickle, that's right. This is Fox News putting the president's claim on screen, then immediately displaying numbers that contradict it.
How much? Total oil flow averages nearly 21 million barrels per day in the first half of last year, equivalent to about 20% of global petroleum liquids consumption, usually about 1/5 of the world's liquefied natural gas trade moves through there as well. Despite President Trump claiming total control over the Strait, traffic has slowed really to a trickle. If you look at this, before the conflict, more than 100 vessels a day were crossing. Monday, 8 vessels crossed. Yesterday, 14. Now, those are constraints, and that's changing the government's energy outlook. The Energy Information Administration raised its forecast for the average price of a gallon of gasoline over the full year by 14 cents. You can see right here. It also raised its 2026 forecast for Brent crude from $82 a barrel to $87 a barrel. And there's another problem building as well. The International Energy Agency says global crude oil inventories fell by 2.2 million barrels a day in July. It expects a global supply deficit of 1.8 million barrels a day in the third quarter. That's more than double its previous estimate. Now, let's move west.
Before the host then went on to grill Trump Energy Secretary Chris Wright over the cost of living, an issue that Republicans are bleeding support over and very much aware of, considering how scared they seem to be about the midterms. Baier brought receipts too, playing a prediction that Wright had made last year that prices would come down by this point. He confronted him with the current numbers, which of course is far from the picture he painted back then.
And that's nudging up the price of refined products as well.
Let me take you back to November 2025. I asked you about prices overall on energy. Take a listen. Will people feel a different energy cost into the new year, quarter one, quarter two, do you think?
I think you'll soon see a stop in the rise of electricity prices. We're going to achieve that, I think, hopefully in the first half of 2026, the stop of the rises. But during the Trump administration, you will see a downward trend before the administration's over.
So energy inflation, according to the CPI, energy 14.7% up. Gasoline, and obviously we talked before the Iran conflict had started, and that's largely gasoline and fuel, but electricity and energy overall is up significantly.
Yeah, look, as you can see in that electricity price number, that's just a hair over the rate of inflation. Of course, electricity is a battleship. All of the new capacity that's coming online right now was permitted during the Biden administration. And they essentially only permitted wind and solar that are mostly forces to drive up electricity prices. But we have all sorts of massive amounts of new natural gas generation capacity online. We have uprates on nuclear power plants. We have restarts of nuclear power plants. all of the things that need to happen to stop the rise of electricity prices, they're underway. And you've seen announcements across many states of multi-year freezes on electricity prices, a few even announced declines. So absolutely, things are going in the right direction. A ton of communities have already seen the end of electricity price rises, and we want to bring that across the whole country, and we will.
Well, Mr. Secretary, we appreciate you coming on and answering the question.
Than people think it is.
But, Mr. Secretary, you can concede, can't you, that the U.S. doesn't have total control over the Strait of Hormuz?
Look, Iran is attempting to hold the world economy hostage and to terrorize their neighbors. They've built up a giant arsenal. So are they causing difficulties in the region? Absolutely. But they have a losing strategy. At the end, that will lead to the collapse of this regime in Iran as their economy gets strangled. But are they causing some difficulties for their neighbors and the world economy? Absolutely. But their ability to cause difficulties are declining. Our ability to escort and bring products out of that region is growing. They have sort of one card, and it's shrinking in size.
That does not sound like total control, but you have live.
And this is why Trump is very much losing control of the narrative. His description of the war increasingly requires Americans to disregard the measurable consequences of said war, both at home and overseas. He's constantly moving the goalposts, and he's even going as far to suggest that military families of service members who are on board and suffering consequences as a result of this war are just lying about the conditions on the USS Lincoln.
Well, no, that ship is moving. No, they're not. That ship is moving right now, or very shortly, and it's being replaced with another very similar ship. No. Not nearly long enough. Thank you, everybody.
Trump's narrative does not merely conflict with his critics anymore. It actually conflicts with his own administration and the people who often voted for him. And Fox, they're the ones putting that contradiction directly in front of Republican voters and even Republican guests on the network. Other hosts have questioned how Trump can claim Iran's military has been decimated when it remains capable of threatening American interests. They are hearing Trump say one thing and then their own network show them another. And by the way, Americans have long since ran out of patience when it comes to this war. Reuters reported this week that nearly 6 months into the war, 2/3 of Americans want it ended.
And one other thing I have to say, they keep talking about affordability. Affordability, I walk in, I'm in office one day, and those fakers, look at all that press back there. Wow, fake news. But they keep talking about affordability. When I got in, you remember the first news conference, it was one day, they started screaming, what about eggs? What about eggs? Eggs. I said, tell me about eggs. What's the problem? They're up 5 times higher than they were just a year ago. I said, I've just been here one day. And then they started screaming affordability. And, I made the statement, but they always misread it and everything else but I said, the Democrats saying that is a hoax because they're the ones that cause the affordability. We're bringing the prices way down. Look at what's happening, coming way down.
He's right. The challenge for him and for the president is the most obvious way to make people's lives better right now, according to voters themselves, is to bring cost of living down in this country, something that they're not really managing to do yet.
Right. Well, and as I said in my column yesterday in the Wall Street Journal, you start by not gaslighting. The president made a mistake, in my opinion, last week saying we've got the greatest economy in the history of the world, and prices for groceries and gasoline and everything are coming down rapidly. That's not the experience of the American people.
Trump's conflict has helped raise gasoline prices and has damaged Republican standing on the economy ahead of November. It's already been pretty obvious with the primaries. You look at many Trump-aligned candidates losing, with voters often citing the war and cost of living directly as a reason for pulling away from that branch of the party. Reuters notes that consumer prices were 3.3% 4% higher in July than a year earlier, while voters now say that they trust Democrats more than Republicans on the economy for the first time in nearly a decade of Reuters Ipsos polling. That's not only catastrophic for Trump, but it's significant, right, as we head towards the midterms. The economy was supposed to be Trump's firewall. Even people who dislike Donald Trump were often told, well, at least he knows business. He's a businessman, right? Conveniently overlooking all the bankruptcies. But we were told that prices would come down day one. Gas prices would be cheaper. Meanwhile, Fox News hosts are the ones calling BS on those claims.
Hey, if you want the full story, how democracy got here and how we take it back, pre-order our new book, WTF America, today. Just scan the QR code or click the link in the description. Let's do this.